Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Overanalyst here, and today I'm going to be doing a review of One Piece chapter 1023 called Spitting Image, or in my case, it was Two Peas in a Pod, as well as One Piece chapter 1024 called Nobody Important. That's right, I'm doing two One Piece chapters today, and so if you like this kind of format, tell me in the comment section down below. I might have forgotten a One Piece chapter between this one and maybe my last review. I don't remember, but I'm going to just stick with these two. That being said, if you like anything I say or you want to contribute to the conversation, make sure to also talk about it in the comment section down below. Anyway, let's get into this. Also, actually, before I begin, I will most likely be bouncing back and forth between the two chapters. I'm not going to go completely chronological because that just may be how my brain's going to operate. We're going to see. Anyways, so 1023 starts off with with Zoro and Sanji versus King and Queen. And they are pretty much going neck and neck with each other. You know, Sanji and Zoro lands a couple hits on King and Queen, and then King and Queen gets up and be like, that's it? That's all you got? That's nothing. Come on, you guys can do better than that. And Zonji and Zoro have some really fun bickering moments, going back and forth, going like, hey, you gotta get better at this, you gotta get better. And like, for some reason, Sanji doesn't feel quite right in his raid suit, and I don't really know why exactly. He's like, he doesn't feel right. He doesn't feel 100% himself, which is really interesting. And what's really cool is that Queen goes and like makes fun of Sanji. He's like, oh, you're one of Judge's kids. That must mean you have some kind of augmentation. Gee, I wonder if the reason that your leg is on fire is part of an augmentation. And freaking Sanji's like, no, I'm just human. That's it. I'm just human. There's nothing weird about me, says the guy with a burning leg. And so that whole discussion's real interesting. And while all this is going on, you have Kawamatsu and Hyogura, I'm trying to pronounce these names right. They're talking off to the side, and they're like, you know, Zoro kind of looks like a certain daimyo. He kind of looks like the daimyo of the Ringo Kingdom. What was his name? Ushimaru Shimotsuki? They're like, yeah, you know, that daimyo was like the son or grandson, or he's a direct descendant of Ryuma. Wait a minute, where have I heard Ryuma before? Thriller Bark. Yeah, that's right, Thriller Bark. And so, if you've been living under a rock for the past week, you'll know that, you wouldn't know, that Zoro may be related to Ryuma, who we didn't really fully know what he looked like because he was zombie form in Thriller Bark. And so there was a bandage covering one of his eyes, which turns out to maybe represent the fact that he was missing an eye. And not a lot of people caught on to it. I think there may have been a couple people who may have noticed, but for the most part, that was just not something that people would have noticed. And so that was a really nice foreshadowing, because they're like, yeah, all three of these guys have one eye. And I think all three of them used in three-sword style. And so that was really cool. And they showed a silhouette of Ushimaru, the daimyo of the Ringo Kingdom. And what's really interesting is what's happening in the next chapter. And I'm going to admit, I didn't think we'll get this much information about this dude this soon, honestly. But it fits really, really well with Yamato's flashback. And I love this flashback a lot. And so I'm gonna talk about that flashback a little bit later, but in a nutshell, it's Yamato that is chained up, and she is pretty much forced to starve while 3 samurais are in a cave with her. So really, really cool. And like I said, one of those samurai turns out to be Ushimaru. And so when I get to that point, I'm gonna go more into depth with it, but really, really enjoyed that flashback. That's just a little heads up. And so where the battle's going on, and while Kawamatsu and Hyogoro are reminiscing about Zoro's past, we kind of have Marco also doing some reminiscing. Everybody is just sitting around during this battle and just sitting there. They're like, remember the good old times? As like flaming arrows zoom past their heads and people are dying left and right. They're like, oh yeah, let's remember the good old times. So random, but it fits so well with One Piece. And freaking Izo goes and picks up Marco saying, hey dude, snap out of it. And Marco goes, oh yeah, you remember about the race of people that lived on top of the red line? Izo's going, dang it, you're starting to sound like Pops when he's drunk. Pops referring to Whitebeard, of course. And so I just kind of love that little back and forth. And Queen drops the name Lunarians as a race. And this is when he's talking about Sanji. And there's a panel of King going, Nani? As Queen is saying it. And so it's kind of referred that might be King's race. Now, I know that Grand Line Review and Tekken 101 both say that that's maybe his race. They're leaning towards that. I'm about 50-50, to be honest. I can definitely see that as being his race. It can also just be a race that maybe King is aware of, that he might be looking for people, or it might be just something like, oh, this is new. I need to know about everything about Lunarians, because maybe that's something that King's interested in. So I don't think it necessarily has to be his race. It's just a race he's interested in. And so that's something really cool. And it's kind of funny because I made a D&D campaign where Lunarians and Solarians were 2 religious organizations in the D&D campaign, along with a third one called Guildians, which is something completely separate. But it was really cool. You know, Lunarians worship the moon, Solarians worship the sun, and the whole concept of the 2 religions was that they kind of worship the same deity, but they kind of split up and saw the same deity but in 2 different forms. It was kind of interesting. I'm not going to go into too deep into it, but it was just really cool, at least for me personally, because I got to see a name that I thought I made up be used in One Piece. And so, with that being said, I'm going to keep my eyes out for Solarians, because I'm guessing, and this is just me going into like One Piece theorist mode, there will be a race of people called Solarians, which might be the Skypians down the line. Could be, or maybe not. I don't know. But it sounds real interesting. The Solarians could be the people that worship the sun god. Just a thought. I don't know if that'll end up being something down the line, but like I said, I'm gonna keep my eyes out. I'm betting on there being a race called Solarians, or Solarius, or something along that line. And so we move on, and towards the end of the chapter, Nekomamushi and Inuyasha are doing their respective battles. You know, you got Nekomamushi against Pedro, and Inuyasha going up against Jack. And so the thought is, I guess, now that I think about it, is that if you're going along power scaling wise, King, Queen, and Jack are all supposed to be roughly about the same power scale. You know, that they're the three all-stars. And so Zoro and Sanji are going up against King and Queen, which should mean that Inuyasha would be going up against Jack. And so yeah, and then Nekomamushi and Inuyasha are like day and night. They're two halves of the same coin, so they're about the same power level wise. And so, does that mean that Nekomamushi and Inuyasha will be the same power level as Zoro and Sanji? Nah, I don't know. And maybe Pedro is the same power level as Jack, and I doubt it. I very much doubt it, honestly. That's just kind of like a fun connection that I'm just making in my head, where it's like, huh, I wonder. But anyways, that being said, they're going on, and they both end up under the moonlights, and they get into their Sulong forms, which are pretty nuts. I love their Sulong forms. And so, yeah, as you can see, I've got notes. That's why I'm constantly looking down. So, yeah, that's going to be the end of 1023. Now, as you may have noticed, I'm sticking with this image, and that's mainly because I couldn't find a 1024 to cover up or make another separate video for, so I'm like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna just keep the same one. So 1024 called Nobody Important, and I love this chapter even more. I love this chapter. It starts off with Usopp writing a number claiming he has Conquerors Hockey. And I'm just dying. Oh my gosh. He's going around. He's like, I am Uso Hachi, and I've taken out 2 of the numbers. No, that's not numbers. Flying 6. He's like, I've taken out the two of the Flying 6, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's Uso Hachi. He took out 2? Holy cow. No wonder why everyone is falling down around him. And he's like, yes, my Conquerors Hockey is so strong. You men of weak wills cannot stand up against me. My gosh, Usopp. It's been so long since we've had Usopp shenanigans. Let me tell you, I have missed the Usopp shenanigans. You know, the stuff where he pulls out, like, the 1-ton hammer. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I miss Usopp shenanigans. What everybody's really theorizing is that it's really Big Mom's hockey, Conquerors Hockey, that's knocking everybody out. Like, it's so strong that it's just reverberating everywhere. That's the theory. Wouldn't it be cool if Usopp had Conquerors Hockey, though? Wouldn't it? Like, maybe some foreshadowing here. I think there might be a case for some foreshadowing, because Usopp's character arc is literally him becoming a brave warrior of the sea. That is his journey. He wants to be a brave warrior. And guess what conquerors need to be? Brave. And so I'm thinking this is some foreshadowing of Usopp getting some Conquerors Hockey. Just kind of like how Zoro kind of was foreshadowed to have Conquerors Hockey. I think this is the same deal, honestly. And so I'm super excited for that. Really, really excited. While this is all going on, we have a game of telephone where Nami goes and calls up Frankie and goes, hey, Frankie, you know, do you have any news? And Frankie's like, I don't know crap. Everyone's running towards the live stage. And you see Kawamatsu going and taking everyone down. But basically, Frankie's like, okay, yeah, we'll keep in touch. I'm on my way there. And as he's going, he goes and bosses Law's crew around, and it's funny because Law has become like the tsundere of the big three, you know, I guess with being like Kid, Luffy, and Law. And so it's so funny that his crew is doing the exact same thing, where it's like, you can't boss me around, Baka. And then they go around and do exactly what Frankie says, which is just like, hold the line. It's hilarious. I love that. And freaking Beppo. Oh my gosh, I love Beppo the panda. He's just going around kicking everybody's butt. He's so cool. And so while this is going on, I think Frankie is talking to Brooke, and Brooke is carrying an unconscious Robin while being on fire. And he's got a funny line too, because he's like, oh wow, this is actually hot. This is actually burning me. Does that mean I'm being cremated? I love Brooke's puns. Oh, he's so good. I love his puns. And so, yeah, he's running around, and he has a transponder still, and he's trying to talk to Jinbei. He's like, Jinbei, come on. We all need to meet up. And so the whole like telephone game is really quite funny in itself, and I just like seeing everyone's snapshots of what's all going on. And so that's what's going on for the first half of this chapter, and I guess maybe it's more like a first third, because the second third is literally just Yamato and Kaido. And so Kaido is fighting Yamato still, and it's kind of weird. I'm not really sure what's going on, but I think Kaido is like firing lasers at Yamato. He's calling it like thunderous arrows, and it's really weird to me, because he's mainly a melee fighter. You know, he has the Kanabo, and Yamato both have Kanabos, and so we see like some of the fight is that. And I think Yamato also shows to have some Conquerors Hockey too, because their Kanabos don't touch as well. And so that's super cool, and that happens like later on in the chapter. But they're fighting, and Yamato's like, dude, you're trying to kill me. You're my father. Why are you trying to kill me? And Kaido's like, this isn't a family matter. You should have prepared for war when you call yourself Odin. And Yamato's like, what's wrong with being a fan of Odin? Then we get flashback time. Oh, this is such a good flashback. I love this flashback. So Yamato, as a little kid, it looked like to be about 5 years old, give or take. She is tied up to a rock inside of a cave. And it's funny because Kaido's men is like, the only child is throwing a temper tantrum. And we hear off in the distance, I'm Odin! Which is kind of funny. She was calling herself Odin at like that young of an age. And we see everyone around her knocked out. So she has signs of Conquerors Hockey. Kaido admits it, where he's like, oh, you have Conquerors Hockey. That's very impressive. I'll keep that in mind. However, I'm not going to take you in if you keep calling yourself Odin. And so he literally has her chained to a rock, and he's like, you stay here without food for a month and think things over, you know? Maybe in a month you'll learn to understand, and maybe you will stop being foolish and calling yourself Odin. And Yamato's like, I'm starving, which is fair. She's 5 years old. And so Kaido leaves, but before he does, he nods over to 3 samurai that are being chained up as well. And he's like, you know, if any of you decide to join my force, just holler. Also, just to kind of spruce things up, why don't I have like a plate of food here, like a bowl of rice and maybe some veggies, and you know what? You guys can fight over it. And he just drops like 6 swords in front of him. 6, 7, just a pile of swords, because you know half of them use 2 or 3 sword style techniques. So that in itself is cool. And then he leaves, thinking nothing else of it, because Kaido is kind of an idiot. Really, he's kind of an idiot. And so part of me thought that this was going to be where Yamato eats the devil fruit, but no. What happens is that what Kaido left behind is, like I said, a bowl of rice and then like some other random miscellaneous food. And Yamato is sitting there and she's like, "Oh no, I'm with 3 samurai and I'm the son of Kaido. They're gonna kill me. They're gonna kill me for sure." And instead of killing her, they feed her, and we get a reveal that one of them is in fact Ushimaru, which is so cool. And she goes and asks him. She's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm a disgraced samurai. I am of nobody importance." I love that. Oh, I love that. He's giving me big Zoro vibes. This is like his nothing happened moment. Oh, it's so good. And so they feed Yamato, and Yamato's like, if I'm starving, can I be a samurai? And they're like, "Yeah, sure," and then they break out of the cave. So I guess story be told, be a samurai. I don't know. It's so cool that the way they do it, because all 3 of the samurai like just pick up the swords, they break off their chains, and then they slice through the rock that's covering the cave, and then they start breaking havoc, throughout the entire countryside. And Kaido's men's like, "Hey, they're going around killing people." And so I think it's foreshadowed that this is how they die, was when they started causing havoc. But that's been kind of foreshadowed already. So that was just a super dope flashback, and I think we're gonna get more, because we still don't know where or when Yamato ate it exactly. However, like, this was cool. This was super cool. And so I love that. And then we get back to the fight, and Yamato's like, "You don't know anything, Pops." And then they go and strike at each other, and it looks kind of like a stalemate, because they've just a beautiful panel of them kind of meeting with their combos without touching, kind of revealing that she also has Conquerors Hockey in that kind of weapon format. So super cool. I love that so much. So that's going to be the end of this review. If you guys like it, post a comment down below. That's going to be it. I'm the Anime Overanalyst, and I'll see you guys in the next video.